So in my listening, you'll find heavy metal, you'll find some, not a whole lot, but you'll find some country, but you'll find all the classics, all the old gospel quartets, all the choirs. You'll find many, many, many different types of music represented that all make up the person who I am. So whenever I get an opportunity to create something spontaneously, you're going to hear the influence of all those things that converged in my listening, and then you'll hear whatever it is that I feel compelled to express in that moment, which I think is, again, a wonderful gift.
Oh, it is definitely a wonderful gift, and you have an amazing talent in bringing that gift. And the other gift that you have brought is the ability to bring some amazing artists here to town. I was just wondering, who are some of the favorites that you have brought to town over your many years that you have been working at Duke and that you really admired? And is there an artist that you wish that you had been able to bring but that you were never able to bring? Like for me, for example, when we had the Durham Blues Festival, I always wanted, I would have loved it if we had been able to bring B.B. King in before he passed, but that never happened, and he was outside of our price range. The same with Stevie Wonder, who apparently doesn't like to travel. But there were artists like that I would have loved to have brought to or helped to bring to the downtown area when we were at the old ballpark. And I was just wondering, is there somebody like that you wish that you'd been able to bring, and who are some of the favorites that you did bring?
Well, I can answer both those questions. We have had a wonderful opportunity to bring people to Duke, and it's one of the greatest parts of my job, frankly, to get to bring some of the true gems of this music to Duke and to Durham. John Hendricks, David Fathead Newman, Louis Belson, Monty Alexander, Joey DeFrancesco. I mean, there's a long list since I have been at Duke. A long list of people who I can say I've loved having them and loved the experience of sharing in the music with them and getting to share our students performing right alongside them, which I will go ahead and say that's one of the things that really distinguishes our program and makes it unique. We bring guest artists in 4 times a year for 3 days at a time, and there are some schools of music that don't do that. So yet another nod to Duke for believing in the vision that I had with the jazz program and enabling us to create that kind of experience for their students. It's invariable that parents will come here and they'll come to the concert and they'll say, now my child is on stage with this person. You mean to tell me that this person's been here for 3 days? Y'all have had rehearsals. You got to eat with them. You got to have a conversation. They came to class to get a master class. You did all this stuff 4 times a year just because you came to Duke? And that's when I stick my chest out and say, yes, indeed. So I'm very proud to have had those kind of people come. But on the flip side, to answer the other question, we actually had deals and had dates with Jimmy Smith, Shirley Horn, Freddie Hubbard, in particular, who were due to come to Duke and passed away shortly before they actually were going to land on campus. We actually had them lined up to come, and their untimely death prevented it. So those are 3 right off the bat who I can think of who I'm like, man, we really missed out on something there.
Yeah, they definitely missed out on a lot and everything. So definitely, John, I want you to stay on the line. I believe that I've got a young lady that's calling in as well who's a fellow musician, but she's kind of bringing it from the other perspective because she moved here from another country. So I want you to stay on the line and have some of the back and forth with Mbala, who is from Cameroon. But I think we're going to do an ad real quick or a PSA, but then I'm going to bring in Mbala. But definitely want to continue this conversation with you and everything and also bring her in. So, Dean, can you drop a spot for me?
I sure can, right about now.
Are you enjoying the smoothest conversation in podcasting? Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Hi, this is DJ Smooth Jazz, syndicated radio host and co-owner of Portfolio Group LLC, your smooth jazz lifestyle and entertainment group with offices in Durham, North Carolina. Portfolio Group LLC specializes in promoting the lifestyle of smooth jazz listeners with the promotion of smooth jazz events and the distribution of African-American-owned wines. For more information, portfoliogroupllc.com, or you can swing by my secondary site, djsmoothjazz.com. Now back to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
Now, before we bring in...
Bala, you are on the line.
Good. All right.
Hey, Mbala, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. We've got John Brown on the line with us as well. He's the over at Duke University, the head of the jazz department over there. And, of course, I'm here as well as Dean, the guy that I do this show with and everything. Now, Mbala, you first moved here from the country of Cameroon, if I remember correctly. How did you get involved in the music community? I know that you were, I think the first time I saw you might have been at one of our festivals. It might have either been Bembe or at the Art of Cool. I don't remember which, but I know that you've been here for a few years, but I was wondering, were you a musician in your home country, or did you get involved in music when you first moved here?
Well, actually, my family is originally from Cameroon, and my father was ambassador of Cameroon to the U.S., but I grew up in the United States. I just grew up in Washington, D.C.
Okay. And how did you get involved in music? I know Washington is like Durham. It's got a really rich music community and everything. So did John was talking about how when he was young, his parents had him involved in first learning the piano and then learning the instrument that he is most known for, the bass and everything. But I was wondering, how did you get involved in music? And your music is definitely a different style. Like I said, John is known for jazz, but he's also got Groove Track, which is a funk band. And your music seems to be a hodgepodge of different styles. I know you definitely incorporate some world music, but you also have some, I would argue, hip-hop elements and other elements. So how did you first get involved in music?
Yeah. Well, it was my brother was a manager. He managed this hip-hop artist in D.C. for a really, really long time. He, had his high school group and then went into management. And I was, being the little sister, just kind of, forced to hang out with him and just kind of see everything that they were doing. So I really, really internalized that. And so I just kind of became like his secret A&R. And when I moved to Durham when I moved to North Carolina to go to college, it was only, I think, my last year that I decided that I was really going to just, bite into it and just kind of do a deep dive. But at the time, I had decided that I wanted to focus on management. So I was actually managing a hip-hop duo locally in the area. So after a few years and just kind of feeling like, I wasn't being heard and that really this was just kind of my front to becoming an artist myself, I just decided to do that. I was just thinking, hey, my long-term strategy was to be kind of like a P. Diddy and have them kind of blow up as this hip-hop act and then start my music myself. And a couple years into it, I just, I decided, why wait? My father passed in 2014, so that just became another reason for me to really just live my life to the fullest and do what I wanted to do. I'd always been a writer, so they say if you can write anything, if you can write, you can write anything. So, I dug into writing songs and, linked with one of my really close friends who's a touring musician. So he was able to start making the beats to the songs that I was writing. And it really just grew from there. So that's only been like a 3-year journey for me. So I'm really new to music, but I do feel like, it was my lane because I'm fortunate to have been, a part of Art of Cool Festival and Hopscotch Festival and all those things so quickly.
And which college did you come here to go to school at? And what major were you originally intending to go into? And how has that played into music, if at all?
So I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill on the Tar Heel, and I went in doing journalism, broadcast journalism, and I also did performance. So when I was doing that, I was telling people that the performance element was really just my way of trying to be comfortable on camera for broadcast, and I think the reality was I wanted to get comfortable on stage. So, that helps out in terms of being able to perform and just embracing the moment and being present when you're on stage, etc. The journalism side of it helped me manage myself, learning to write and to approach editors, to approach writers, to, book a venue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of like the organizational side and the structure that came with being in school helped me figure out how I was going to manage myself as an artist, whereas the performance element helped with that part of just being the artist.
And how would you describe your music? Like I said, I've definitely noticed that you incorporate different elements into your music, but if somebody had to ask you to describe your music, how would you describe it?
I like to tell people that I make music for immigrant women with American degrees and bottom grills. So to me, that means, it's thoughtful. I think about it. I put a lot of effort into my lyrics, and there's, like you said, there's a very hip hop element. But I have always loved to sing, so I like to sing over hip hop beats and just incorporate that thing that makes me, which is my culture, all at the same time. So with hip hop being a genre in itself with so many genres within it, so many different lanes. There's trap, there's boom bap, there's, anything that you can think of. And those are all the things that I grew up listening to, and I incorporate that. And then I just add my touch of, my being African and into, Afro-Caribbean music, etc.
And one of the things that I've noticed about your music, and you just alluded to, is that you also incorporate a lot of messages within your lyrics. So I think you're one of those artists that would be considered also a message musician, because it seems to me that a lot of your songs have themes. It might be around, for lack of a better term, and I don't know if you would agree with this term, but it might be around people might consider it kind of a feminist message, as well as definitely positive Afro-Caribbean kind of messages and incorporating and highlighting your people and everything.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, I think that especially with the first project that I dropped, which so far is the only one, it was important to me to make sure that I'm letting people know who I am, and those were all the things that I was experiencing. I was I'm an immigrant, and it's affected me, and I just I just came into that realization about how different I am, how different my perspective is. So I needed to talk about that, and being a woman, coming, leaving college, and coming into the real world, just seeing how my being a woman affects my perspective or how I'm perceived, etc. All my experiences. So I mean, there was just a lot there to digest for me, and I try to make it a point to say something. One of the things that I learned early on when I was working on music and art altogether, I try to ask myself, hey, why is this important, before I put it out, and I make sure that I can answer that question with everything that I do.
And this question is actually for both you and John. John, I know you're still on the line and everything, but how important do you think it is for artists to use their vehicles as a means of addressing social issues and social concerns? Like I said, Mbala has definitely mentioned her immigrant background and everything. I know that you've even touched on some things in your music as well, John, but how important do you think it is for people that are artists to use the art as a platform for positive change?
I think our initial charge is to honor who we are and to communicate what we feel compelled to communicate by the Creator. And I think that the truest way to honor the gift you've been given is to be true in what you're saying and what you're trying to communicate. For those who are compelled to do that, I think that that's their charge. I think that the only thing that will bring you peace is to do that which you feel like you've been called to do. But with that said, certainly we have a platform as artists, musicians, and artists to touch people in a way that other methods cannot. So certainly where we have the opportunity to say something that is politically meaningful, that addresses any of our issues, it certainly is a forum that gives us that way to reach people in that very unique and special way that really touches them. I won't dismiss the idea that we are all supposed to do that, but neither will I say that I believe everybody is called to do that. Some people may be called simply to bring people to a place of peace. Some people may be called to create art that is meant to stimulate thought, that is meant to disrupt, that is meant to cause unrest. and similar. And I go back to